So I'm back and we're discussing this issue of the burning of trucks once again. Since my last video, I'll put the link below to that video, we've had nearly 20 trucks burned now. It's now happened all over. It's happened in Mpumalanga, it's happened in KwaZulu-Natal, it's happened around Piet Retief and Waterval, and it seems more and more trucks are getting burned. And now the question is raised, why and how? First of all, it looks like it seems there are armed individuals coming with multiple vehicles or vehicles stopping the trucks, demanding the truck drivers out of the truck, and then promptly just setting it alight. There's been some talk about it potentially being an issue about foreign drivers again, but funny, none of the drivers were seemingly asked where they were from, whether they were South Africans or not. And interestingly, some of them were even allegedly told to remove their personal belongings from the truck before they were set alight. So fortunately or unfortunately, depending on who you talk to this about, one of the trucks had a camera in it and the incident was caught on video. Now what you'll see from the video is that the truck driver is sitting inside the truck. He's seemingly standing still. He's using his cell phone. As far as I can tell, he sees and suspects something is up. He's looking ahead and he's starting to prepare his phone. While this is happening, somebody arrives at his door and they start shouting at him to open the door. He does try to resist a little bit, but eventually relents. That person then alights the vehicle. He's caught clearly on camera. I've even had an enhanced image made of that, or I've enhanced it with artificial intelligence to try and identify this individual. He gets into the truck. He actually drives forward, maybe about 10 or 50 meters, and then he opens a container, sprays a chemical, which I assume to be some kind of accelerant, inside the truck and promptly puts it alight and jumps out of the door and goes away. And that's, of course, how the trucks are set alight. The intention is very clear. It wasn't like it was a protest or an unrest or a situation where ultimately it led to trucks put on fire. It's very clear that the plan from the outset was to access the vehicle, to enter it, to release a chemical, to put it on fire. And that was the goal and the final, intent. So now the question is raised, why? Why would somebody do this? I mean, you'd ask if there was no interest in who the driver was, where they were from, what their nationality is, then you've got to ask yourself, why? Who benefits from this? Now we have to start looking again and following the money. Initially, I said, well, I was at a conference recently where the Minister of Transport said, well, there's a push to go to rail. And then I made the association, hang on, if there's a push for rail and there's this sudden assault on trucks, how do we know that these two agendas are not aligned? Because certainly if, as we know, there are all these questions and allegations around members of parliament, the people in government having private contracts, and for all we know, there's some kind of effort afoot to try and force the transport industry into a crisis, and that the government could swoop in and come up with a solution. And if that solution is linked to private rail, as the minister suggested, perhaps there's a financial reward or motivation behind it. These 10 massive tenders, and perhaps it costs, PRASA 10,000 Rand to cover a distance with a train, and some private contractor might get a contract for 100,000 Rand for the same work. But then somebody opened another door and said, but what if we look at all the infrastructures collapsing? We look at at South African Airways, we look at the postal service, we look at the rail service, we look at Eskom. What if it's a foreign actor? What if we have some kind of influence from abroad? I'm going to open a door and say, what if it's, say, Russian or Chinese? Let's say the Chinese have an interest in injecting some kind of control in South Africa, and it might be their interest to motivate or socially engineer some kind of instability. Because the fact is, the more unstable South Africa is, the lower its value, and by implication, immediately also, the weaker the currency and the easier it is to trade and benefit out of South Africa. I'm not going to say that anything I'm saying right now is accurate, true, or correct. I'm just trying to hypothesize and understand why there would be this assault on so many infrastructures in South Africa, all kinds of corruption and interference and coercion, and all kinds of problems in Eskom, problems in the postal service, problems in the rail service. And now it's the transport sector, which is primarily a private industry, being targeted. It's just strange. It raises many questions, more questions than answers, unfortunately. And I would just like for people to watch this moment. I think this is not the end. I think it's only the beginning. I think now is the time for people to start acting more and more defensively and preemptively, to start forward intelligence operations and processes and efforts, And I think the solution will have to come from the private sector. I don't know that the government is fully equipped. I mean, if they can't run so many government departments effectively, even where there's no trouble and strife, how could they, if there's this kind of, again, I'm going to call it some kind of terror attack. There's an attempt to terrorize people into some kind of, I suppose, ultimate political direction. I don't know. But I thought I'd share those thoughts, and I thought I'd share the video. Stay safe. I'm going to keep making videos, and especially if I come up with any new ideas. All of the best, and go safely.